So, so we're gonna let Tronda go first, because my mom tried to raise a gentleman, and the gentleman lets the lady go first. Yeah.
Who am I individually as well as collectively? Well, individually, I'm a child of God. I am a sister, a friend, a daughter. I am by profession, by trade, I'm an SLP, a speech language pathologist. Um, I feel like I'm kind, I'm caring. um, that's who I am, apart with Brian, that taxon wife and mother, and confidant. Yeah, that I think is my response to that.
Well, for me, by myself, I'm this guy born from under a rock in Hickory, North Carolina, and who had a challenging childhood, like many people who grew up in the 80s. And I was blessed to find a way out of that community by the grace of God. And I wasn't a whole lot by myself, because maybe we'll talk about this later, but Trunda and I have been kind of together since we were 18. So I was just a boy trying to find his way in life. And I am somebody's preacher, a son who loves his mother and father, a brother who loves his sisters and brothers. And that's my story is pretty short as far as that's concerned. So who am I together? Who are we together? We had the great opportunity to build this family together. We got these two good looking boys. So I'm a husband and a father, and we provide a team as a family that serves at a church here in Fort Worth called Lake Como Church. And that's who we are and what we do. Most of all, we're children of God. Got the opportunity to baptize my baby boy, Mark. So now we're a whole family of people serving in God's kingdom. And so I'm grateful for that.
Amen. Glory to God. That is so, so beautiful. And when I knew Tronda and Brian, there was no little ones, then there was one little one. So to know that you're raising a kingdom family, it just does my heart good, y'all. It does my heart so good. So tell us, how did you meet? And include your first impressions of your spouse. How did you meet? So I remember Brian said he had prayed for someone that was exactly like you. I remember that.
That's true. But you know how when you're 18, you don't exactly know what. I'm just kidding. Go ahead, honey.
How did we meet? We met at freshman orientation. We went to the same undergrad, East Carolina University. And then you'd have orientation weekend. So you'd go up to the campus and you'd be toured around, and you spend the night in the dorms, and they'll throw little pizza parties and stuff for you, and have a few people give a couple speeches, and then you go home and then start, a month from then. In the fall. And so we met during the freshman orientation weekend. I'm laughing because the story is hilarious, and this is when you're probably going to see our different personalities. But we were at a pizza party that they were throwing for us outside of one of the dorms, and there were a lot of people there, and there were a couple of guys that were there, and evidently most of the girls just really liked these guys, and so they were
misrepresenting themselves.
And so like a bunch of girls were, talking to these guys and doing a bunch of stuff. And I was just sitting there like, oh my goodness, what kind of campus or school have I come to? And I was sitting down ready to go. And through the crowd, I look up, and through the crowd, there's a guy coming towards me. And
tall, dark, and a handsome guy. Get your descriptive terms together.
Down and I'm thinking, oh, please don't let him say anything. Please don't let him come to me. And of course, I see Sean
Get your terms together.
comes up to me and he's like, hello. And I'm really short. Hi.
She was not short. She was stuck up. Don't worry about it.
It's like, hey. And I'm like, hi. How you doing? Fine. What's your name? Tronda. And then he looks at me, he goes, you're not talking, I'm not talking. Let's sit here and not talk together. But we then talked
Till like 4 o'clock in the morning. This cornball had enough game to talk to this girl he just met that wouldn't talk to anybody else at the party till 4 a.m. So somebody wasn't as corny as she is making you believe today. That's pretty much the story of how we met.
So what were your first impressions of me?
Oh, my first impression was, you remember I told you I come from this town called Hickory, and I'm from under a rock. I'd never seen anything that looked like her before. Never in my whole life. Well, that I was not related to. So when you grow up in a town like I did, my family was the biggest family in the county, and all the pretty girls I was kin to them. So we, it was either pretty girl or I won't go down another road. So I had never seen such a pretty girl that I was not related to. And it took me to a different kind of place. And so I decided then that I'm gonna put the game down and make an honest woman out of this little lady who was stuck up and didn't want to talk to nobody at this party. It worked out. It worked out. But she was beautiful. She was not kind, but she was beautiful. But she was not kind. But we got past it.
We did.
So Tronda, what was your very first impression of him?
She already told you, tall,
No,
dark, and handsome. You didn't say that? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
My first impressions. He was physically, he was tall. He was super skinny.
Y'all don't have to believe that, but I was very, very skinny.
And he reminded me of Tay Diggs because he would go around wearing these button up like Hawaiian shirts with the what do you call it, with the shell necklace. And I mean he was
you can say it.
He was nice. When I first saw him, I didn't think, oh, I'm gonna marry you.
No woman thinks that.
Well, but
I know of.
Well, I didn't. But yeah, but at the same time, he was quite bold, to come through the crowd and come to me and keep talking to me, despite, the fact that I wasn't talking. And so that says something about him. So first impressions.
So the Hawaiian shirt and the button-up necklace, but he, that's all right. That is Tay Diggs. That's
Hey,
all right.
now,
stuff.
Kim,
Yeah.
I'm a few years younger than me, but Sean would tell you that in 1999, it was real cool to wear those Hawaiian shirts. That was the end thing. It was cool. You couldn't tell me nothing.
Tay Diggs was cool too,
Hey, did
so
in 1999.
So you were on it. You were in fashion, in mode. Yeah.
There you go. I was in vogue. There we go.
That's right. That's right.
It worked.
Okay. So you see how it worked? Okay. So how did you know when things were getting serious and that your spouse was the one? How did you go from meeting at orientation to, okay, this is the one?
Well, I knew it was getting serious when on the third day of orientation, as I was leaving,
Oh goodness.
I saw this young lady running up the stairs with bated breath to tell me that she needed to give me her phone number before I left, because if I didn't have her phone number before I left, then it was going to be, her life would have never been the same.
Did I really say that?
There were other ladies involved in the orientation, but she was at the top of the list, to be clear.
Whatever.
And that's when I knew that it was serious. So my personality is like this. I kind of can tell you what I want when I see it. I don't need to shop or anything like that. Like if I see a car that I want, that's the truck I want. Or if I see a food on the menu, I don't have to look through all the menu. The one I want is the one that I choose. And so the first time I saw her, I told the guy who ended up being one of my best friends in college that I'm gonna marry that woman. Before I even met her, I told her that. So it was already serious for me. And I just spent, the rest of the time trying to confirm if she was the woman who I wanted her to be. And it turns out she was. But it probably took her a lot longer to figure out if she was going to be serious with me. You guys got to remember, we were just kids when we got together. So, do you me tell them about the story of the time in the dorm? Are we doing that?
Well, I don't know what you're talking about, y'all.
So now let me ask you a question, Kim. Is this a question about when the relationship got serious, or when we like getting married serious? Because those are two different stories.
You're right. Oh, we want both stories.
Oh, okay. Well, y'all might need to pray for us after we tell these stories. So the first story.
Hold on, real quick. I want to tell y'all about this running up to him. Okay, on the third.
Clear
day
it up.
orientation.
Trying to clear it up, girl.
Clear it
Hold
up.
on. Did you run up the stairs to give me your number or not?
Hold on.
There's a yes or no?
It was hot outside.
And you were running up the stairs to give me your phone number.
So what happened was when my mom.
When her mom saw.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No.
Go ahead.
When my parents picked me up from orientation on that third day, my mom asked me, "So did you meet anybody?" And I was like, "Yeah, some people, there's," and I was like, "Yeah, there's this guy named, Brian. He seems to, be nice." And then she was the one that was like, "Did you exchange numbers?" I was like, "Mom, no." And then she was like, "Well, don't you want to know somebody when you come?" And I'm like, "Oh my goodness." And so she is the one that we went around like the dorm.
They were looking for me. Driving around campus.
It was not
trying to find me.
It was not like he's talking about. But we went around the dorm and I was like, oh, like I didn't see him. And then all of a sudden he came outside and there were steps. He came outside. And so I got out of the car and skipped up. I went up to him rather quickly and I was like, "Hey, here's my number. We can keep in touch." That's how that happened. It wasn't that I was running you down.
Ask her how many other guys she gave her phone number to. Out of probably 2,500 kids at orientation. They don't have all day.
None.
No, okay, there we go. Mama war for the win. Let the church say amen.
Okay, now you go.
So when I realized, I was a football player in college, and so some of the young ladies like to spend time with football players when I was in college, and Trunda and I, in my mind, she hadn't gotten serious with me yet. So one day, my roommate and I were hanging out. We really were just hanging out with these two girls. I don't know what their intentions were, but we were hanging out in the dorm room one night, and Trunda comes over unannounced, and she knocks on the dorm door, and I go to the door, and I realized that this was a bad situation to be in. And so I stepped outside to have this conversation with her. This must have been like just before Thanksgiving or something like that. Just before Thanksgiving. And so now I've been trying to get serious with this girl since the first day I met her, but she, I don't know what her problem was.
Oh.
But when she saw these other girls in my room, a light bulb went off. And she told me that day, either we gonna be together or you gonna be with me. Those are your choices.
Now, I don't remember the story.
That's
as
exactly
such.
what you
I'm
said.
not saying that it's not accurate.
Oh,
I'm just
okay.
saying I don't remember, but I love the fact that I was that bold.
She was that bold. That's when I was okay. Well, she exactly what I thought she was. Then after that, that was all she wrote. That was all she wrote. She said, either we're gonna be together or you're gonna be with me, and those are your options.
Now, what I remember,
You remember the story, and you remember that happened.
I don't remember it like that though.
Well,
But anyway, so what I remember as far as things getting serious, I feel like there was just a feeling that I had, inside, because we hadn't kissed for however long we had been dating. And so and so I knew that like there was just something in me, like, oh my goodness, if I kiss him, this is going to be a long relationship. I know this. And lo and behold, it ended in marriage.
Yep.
Okay, so tell us how it got serious for marriage.
You want to hear this story?
Oh,
I
yes.
want-
Okay, so it took me a longer time to graduate than it probably should have. So Tronda was a little bit ahead of me,
I recall.
and she had these life opportunities. I think she had gotten a full ride to get her master's degree somewhere at a different university, I think maybe in Tennessee, and we were at East Carolina University. And back then there was no Zoom or cell phones with what is it? FaceTime. We didn't have any of that. So, and if you were calling somebody long distance, then that cost a lot of money. And the way my checking and savings was set up at that time, there wasn't gonna be a whole lot of long distance phone calls. So she said to me,
When I was trying to decide.
when she was trying to make her decision on where she was gonna go to school, she said to me, and I was a young man, 20 years old, maybe 21. Either you're going to ask me to marry you, or I'm going to go to this other school. Those were the options that I had.
So
She's-
he I think it's changing words around because maybe not exact words, but so this is the thing. I knew that I didn't want to lead him on, and I didn't want to be led on either.
We have been
And
dating for like 4 years.
We had.
Okay.
However, if I'm going to another state and we've been dating, 4 years or, whatever, I just needed to know if there was commitment or not, because I didn't want to continue in a relationship and not know about a future. I don't think that's smart. For me, it wasn't smart, and so, or it wasn't something, I can't say smart, but it just wasn't something that I wanted to do. And so that was, what I needed to know. And I didn't say it mean or rudely.
I mean, it was pretty matter of fact. I didn't say it was rude.
Direct is okay.
I mean, yeah, that's what happened though. That's the story. That's how we got engaged. And I said you could just ask me to marry you, and that'd have been easier to swallow, but
Whatever.
she wanted to do things a traditional way. So that's what we did.
Tronda, your boldness, honey.
Hey,
This boldness this is good, girl.
evidently I had it. I don't recall some of it, but evidently I had it.
Love it. Love it, love it, love it. So I'm sorry, guys, but I got to do a shameless plug for Rudy and her husband. Wait, hold on.
Tabondia and Rudy.
I'm so sorry. So sorry, I mixed it all up.
Oh, Rudy,
Rudy's
Tavania and her
and
husband.
wife.
Man, is that how y'all
Wife.
talk about husbands when they're not around? Y'all just Tronda and her husband?
Yes,
Is that how that?
absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
I understand. Okay. All right.
But tell us about the support system that you all had around you all when you know, with the church and everything when you are in school.
Oh man, I'm gonna tell you
It was
that
awesome.
it was the most probably formative time in my walk with the Lord, because we have people who in front of us lived a real Christian life. And the reason why I say that way is because we spent time, if we were not in class, we were around them. And so it wasn't like they could pretend to be, you can't pretend that much. And I mean, the reason why it took me so long to graduate, because my schedule was very, very flexible. I might have had 2 classes a day for the last 3 years of my college career, ECU, because I was not in a hurry. So I was with them like all the time. This is literally all the time. I would hate for a college student to be at my house the way I was at their house. That would be terrible. You had to go home. But they were very loving. They're very kind. They were very patient with us. But they were not just people to hang around with, but they taught us so much. Spiritually, they taught us so much about just life, and even relationships. And so they were nurturing. That's the word I was looking for. They nurtured us as young men and women. It wasn't just us. There was a group of probably 15 or 20 college students that they just took in like their own children. And they fed us daily.
Yeah.
I mean, this is not joking. Tavania would cook food on Sunday, and we would literally come back every night to eat till like Thursday. And then we'll go to the club on Friday. But it was ridiculous how much they cared for us. But it showed me, and the reason why I'm saying all that is because it was a really small church. We might have 50 people at that church, and 20 of them were college students. But that whole church family, all of the adults cared for us as if we were their own kids. And we didn't miss having a big church. We didn't, there's nothing against big churches, but I'm just saying it's amazing what can happen and how you can grow spiritually in an environment where people actually care about you and take the time to get to know you and care for you. It was just an amazing opportunity to be a part of their lives.
And feed you biscuits.
Man,
What did she
the
say?
biscuits.
Oh
So-
man.
Now I'm gonna tell you,
That it was home cooked
meal
like Thanksgiving meals.
every Sunday,
Like it was
and enough to feed 15 or 20 of us.
and then we
And
took
then
stuff home.
we took stuff home, and then we eat the leftovers the rest of the week, the stuff that people didn't take. And so but they also were like professional mentors. So they were like very well-rounded people who, for whatever reason, God saw fit to put them in our lives. And it was not a casual surface level relationship. I don't know how many of you talk to people that you met in college, and it's been 20 years almost since we graduated, and we still talk to them weekly. Yeah, they were awesome. Probably the best thing that happened to us as a family was meeting them.
Oh yeah, hands down. Hands down.
Amen. That is so beautiful. Okay. So another thing that I know a part of your story is coming into the church and you all supporting each other, particularly in being members of the church. You want to talk about that at all?
Coming into the church, you said?
Yes. So I know, yes, supporting each
Yeah,
other.
so as far as the Church of Christ is concerned, I kind of grew up in the church. I didn't kind of. My mom was a charter member of the church that I grew up in, and it was one of those very dogmatic kind of right wing. Everybody's going to hell but us churches, and so part of my strategy for marrying this woman was we at that time we didn't believe that you could marry anybody or really even be in a relationship with anybody that wasn't a member of the church. And so that was one of my motives for getting her in front of people and who would share the gospel with her. And I don't remember when you got baptized. You remember? I know you probably remember, but she got baptized early on in our relationship, maybe like our freshman year. Was it freshman year?
It was after the freshman year, like at the end.
After?
At the end.
Okay. But that was a hard experience because of probably the approach that I took and kind of some of the changes that she went through with her family because of me being just a knucklehead. I didn't know any better. And I don't regret a whole lot of things. That's one of the things I do regret was the approach I took in trying to lead this God-fearing woman to Christ. It was just a terrible approach. I wouldn't recommend it to anybody. But that takes me to a bad place. So I'm not spending a whole lot of time talking about that. Just be careful when you find somebody. So what I would do differently is I would be more concerned about her fearing God than I would about her being a member of the Church of Christ. Because I have seen a lot of members of the Church of Christ not fear God and it ruin relationships. I think that finding a God-fearing person is at the top of your list of priorities instead of trying to force something on somebody. Because the reality is some people just do whatever you say because they want you, and then they go back to standard operating procedure anyway. And so, yeah, I would take a different approach at this stage of my life.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I just, I really appreciate you sharing that just because I think, in terms of kingdom building, it's really important to know and remember what it is that you said about someone being God-fearing and not trying to force anyone into anything. That's so powerful. I just know that you all, just the way that you supported each other is just so powerful because you just encourage each other in the kingdom. And that's what I've seen. So that's what I was talking about.
Well,
yeah.
as far as that's concerned, listen, I'm doubly blessed because before we got married, my wife knew I wanted to be a preacher, and she decided to marry me anyway.
I didn't know what.
Yeah. Neither one of us, neither one of us knew what that really meant to be a preacher. We didn't know what that meant. But as we continue to find out what that means, the reason why I say I'm doubly blessed because she continues to support me and to support the ministry where I serve. And sometimes that's easier than it is other times. And you never know what direction God is going to call you in. And that's why it's important to find a God-fearing person, because even in difficult times, they'll still support you and support the ministry when their relationship with God is more important than their relationship with you.
Amen all day long. Oh my goodness. Yes, yes, yes. So looking back on some of the expectations you had before marriage, how have they changed? The expectations before marriage and how have they changed now? Expectations of your spouse or expectations of yourself?
You want to go first? Yeah, you took a deep breath. Did y'all see the deep breath she took? She got a lot to say about this. Go ahead, honey. Yes, you do. It's okay.
Oh, stop. No, that's the thing. I don't know that I have a whole bunch to say about that because like I didn't sit down and say, okay, this is what I definitely want. you know, in a mate. This is definitely, you know, what I want, you know, to happen in my marriage. Like, this is definitely, I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that. I think you should, but
We were kids.
yeah, we were kids, we were young. And so as far as the expectations, what expectations? I mean, I expected for us to be together forever. You know, I expected us to respect and love each other. You know, I expected, yeah, that, I mean, those I think were the main things that I expected. I will say this, you know, in the thing that Brian is, you know, a pastor, I was thinking that, you know, when it came to, you know, our kids and things like that, that, you know, he would be the ones all the time, you know, having, you know, lessons, Bible lessons and things like that with them. And so, you know, after being in marriage, what I've realized is we both do it and we've both done it, but it's not just him, it's both of us that have to do that. You know, and you know, that is, you know, what has definitely occurred.
It's primarily her.
And
It's primarily her. Like 95%. I'm the praying daddy and she's the teaching mom. What was the question?
The expectations.
I got a lot of those.
Yeah, I think that's it for now, for right now.
Okay. Well, listen, when you are a young man, you have a lot of expectations, and things that you think that marriage is going to be, and none of it's really realistic at all. None of it. It's just, you're just dreaming about stuff you don't know anything about. And the most important thing I say, as far as expectations are concerned, when you were very young, you don't even know what you want, and you don't know what you like. You don't, and most of all, you don't know who you are. And so I said, I ought to say that you had these expectations, and then, you know, you get 10 years later, you realize not only you don't even want those things that you were expecting. And so, but I had a lot of expectations. A lot of them were met. A lot of them were not met. But the biggest kind of thing about the expectations is I didn't really talk to her about them. I didn't talk to her about them. I just had them in my own mind. And again, you know, we were just kids. I mean, so I love my wife, and I would marry her again if she gave me an opportunity to, but I would have waited longer to get married, much longer, because most of the problems that we've had in our relationship has been because I didn't know who I was, because I was so young when we got married. I've taken this woman through so many changes, just growing into manhood, you know, and I'm just 41. So that should tell you, you know, everything you need to know. It takes a long time for a young man to be comfortable enough with who he is, in my opinion. It takes a long time and a very patient woman, very, very patient woman, to make a young marriage or young relationship survive, is the best choice of words, because, and I can't speak for all men, but I know most of the men that I know kind of fall in the same kind of category. We don't know what's the changes that we're going to go through. We think we know everything when we're too young to know anything. And we're real confident about it, very confident about it. And then life happens. And at the end of the day, you know, you expect certain things from yourself, but they don't often, sometimes they don't match with reality. Let me give you an example, one example. I remember distinctly one day having a conversation with Tronda. Between classes, we just took a walk to a park, and I always knew what I wanted. I just didn't know what that was going to look like. So I knew I wanted to marry her, knew I wanted to have a family with her, but it's a true story. We're sitting on a swing at the park in college, and we're having this conversation about, you know, how we're going to raise our kids, and all this kind of stuff. And I'm trying to have these serious conversations. And I said, I'm gonna get a job when I graduate, and I'm gonna make about $30,000 a year, and I'm gonna be able to take care of our whole family, and you're gonna be able to stay at home and work. And she was looking at me like, you fool, you fool. That's how she was looking at me. But I was a young, dumb kid. I just didn't know any better. I thought that where I come from, that's a lot of money, But that's what I'm saying. I had this expectation that kind of income was going to be able to provide for a comfortable lifestyle for our little family, and that was just ridiculous. It was just ridiculous, and so but that's what, when you're 21 and from a place like me, where I'm from, I was in the top 10% with 30, and we was gonna make it happen. So at any rate, that expectation hit the bottom real quick. Yeah. So I don't know if this is part of the answer, Kim. And you have to jump in real quick because I'll just keep talking.
Preach, y'all. Preach, trying to preach, Brian. Just preach.
So this is what I would say as far as expectations are concerned. Don't let anybody set expectations for you. Okay? Because nobody's going to know you like you know yourself. Get to know who you are. Set expectations for yourself. Decide what you want, what you're looking for, and let those be your expectations, then communicate them clearly with your significant other. And I think that will go a long way. But understand, just because you clearly communicate expectations does not mean that they're going to be met. That's it.
Oh, because Tronda's eyes look like she was about to let it rip. Oh, I love it, you guys. Thank you. That's good. That's good. Get to know yourself, understand your expectations, communicate them effectively, and then understand that just because you communicated them, may not be, what the other person is trying to do. That's good. All right. So how did you cope with challenges during your marriage and deciding not to walk away?
I know for me, that's not an option. Like yes, it can be an option, but like for me, it wasn't. Like I think I just went in just knowing that, we were in this. So you work through it, and the people that were in my family, my mom, my grandparents, were married for long periods of times, until they, all passed away. And so it wasn't a matter of, oh, I'm going to leave, this situation, or when things get hard, it was like, okay, how are we going to get through this time kind of thing. So, that wasn't the first thing. Like when challenges came up, and when they still do.
I was getting ready to say, when challenges come.
Well, I mean, yeah. The first thing that I think about isn't, oh, I'm leaving, I'm going. That wasn't it. And this is an interesting story, or interesting question rather, because we were very different when it came to that. So my first thing wasn't, oh, I'm leaving. However, his first response was, oh, is she going to leave me? Mm-hmm. Based on, his past experiences and, life and things like that. And so that was new to me. Like, what do you mean? Am I going to leave? No, like, I'm here. Let's work through this, what do you have to say?
Yeah. So when I was 12 years old, when I was maybe 8 or 9 years old, my dad walked out of my life. He chose crack cocaine over me and my family. So I literally still today live with this expectation that people who are close to me are going to choose a different life over me. And I've talked to people about that. I've tried to process that. That's just kind of my home base. Like, I live with the expectation that people are going to abandon me. But you have to understand that about yourself, whatever your home base is. If you don't know what home base is, look up Dr. Tony Roach, and he'll bless your life. This material has been out there for 20 years, but it'll bless your life. But I live with the home base of abandonment. So, and sometimes, you will sabotage yourself or sabotage a relationship, almost force people away when you don't understand, from where you are working. And so you have to be careful with that. And so, yes, Tony Roach, God's Love Bank. Thank you. So when things get difficult, that's just the expectation, because that was my first real emotional experience, was abandonment. And so what was the original question? I got a text message. I got a text message that kind of distracted me. What was the original question right there?
This is so good, you guys. So how have you been able to work through challenges without deciding to walk away?
So like Trunda, my dad and mom, even through all of that.
Because he came back and he's amazing. His dad, oh my goodness.
You stole my thunder. Like,
I'm so
that's
sorry,
my story.
but he's amazing.
That's my story. So my dad is the best man I've ever met in my life. He made some bad decisions in his 30s that cost him about almost 10 years of his life, away from his family, out in the streets, in prison. But he came to himself, and I have a 14-year-old sister, a sister that's 14 years younger than me, that is a consequence of their reconciliation, my parents' reconciliation. Yeah. And that taught me that if they could survive all of that, then we can work through a few arguments. We should be able to work through a few arguments. And I know I got distracted too. I want to tell y'all something. I just want to say something. There's this kind of popular movement in culture, especially among us, that kind of can give you the impression that you shouldn't have to work through things in your relationship. And if you do have to work through things, that it's not worth it, you need to move on. That's like the biggest lie the enemy wants you to hear and believe and accept. No, I don't care. Look, I've heard young people, I'm young, but I've heard young people say things like, grandmama just stayed with granddaddy because she had to. No, grandmama loved granddaddy, and granddaddy was not perfect. Granddaddy probably had a whole nother family across town, but grandmama loved granddaddy. And granddaddy loved her. He may not have known how to love her. He may didn't love her like he should have, but they loved one another, and they stayed together, and it blessed you, and it'll bless your children, and that relationship will bless your grandchildren. Because reality is, there are gonna be 99 different things that happen in your relationship if you're gonna have one.
Right.
So you gotta, when it comes to that, you gotta decide if you're gonna have one. Now, some things, you gotta also decide you're not gonna take. I'm not saying,
take it.
if they killing you, that they love you to death. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that you can decide that you all gonna get through this. And when you do, then there's work to be done. But I think Authentic Marriages is on here, and they will tell you that marriage is a full-time job. And any job where you don't work, you're gonna lose that job.
Amen. All day long. Shout out to Authentic.
Yes. Kim, can I say one more thing?
Yes, please.
I know we run out of time, but on that, it's okay to know that you're not coping well when you're struggling. So, in a real shout out to Authentic Marriages, if you're not coping well, find somebody who can give you the tools that you need to cope well. Shout out to Authentic Marriages.
Amen. Amen. And just to give a plug for Authentic Marriage right now, Tara and Jared are also one of those couples that are doing the work in terms of kingdom marriage. Authentic Marriages took a trip to Jamaica with other couples back in July, and I'm just like, this is so awesome. So for those of you, I know Jesus Sprinkle is really, the audience is a lot, single women desire kingdom marriage, but going ahead and identifying the resources that you might need when you get into a marriage, It's very smart. And Authentic Marriages is one of those really powerful Christian-based resources. Right. Okay, so the next question is, and I would love to hear from Authentic Marriages at the end of this, what's coming up next for you guys, what you all have planned next. So unpack the concepts of trust and boundaries in the context of a godly marriage. Trust and boundaries.
Well, those are
Foundation.
yeah, they're cornerstone. You're not gonna have a good relationship if you can't trust one another. And sometimes that trust will be disappointed. But you're not gonna have, why are you looking at me like that? I can see you.
What are you talking about? Me?
You. Okay, well, you're looking at me strange.
This is intently listening.
Okay. So trust and boundaries for any relationship are they're foundational. But now all boundaries are not good boundaries. Okay. If you want to be careful about the kind of boundaries that you set. But I will say this, don't lose yourself in your relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Don't lose yourself in your relationship. What I mean by that is it takes two individuals to create a healthy relationship. Do y'all understand what I'm saying? You should be able to go into the gas station and leave your cell phone in the car. You understand what I'm saying? That should not be a thing.
Right.
But at the same time, you should have some freedom and flexibility in your relationship that if you need to go and get you some me time, that you can go and do that. You understand? You got to maintain who you are, but at the same time, accept that you will have some influence over one another over time. Have you guys? I don't know what the research is behind this, but have you guys ever noticed how couples that have been together for a very long time almost start to look alike? I'm serious.
Yes.
No, we haven't been together long enough. Don't talk about people been together decades. This is
Yep.
this is a true phenomenon.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's because they start to look alike, not because they physically look alike, but because they look at each other so much that their facial expressions begin to mimic one another. And so they will begin to, like grandmama and you say, you favor so-and-so, that kind of thing. And so I just brought that up. I don't know the science behind it, but I know it to be true. Jared probably knows the science behind it. But I said that to say that even from a physical perspective, if you spend enough time with people, you're going to rub off on them. And but maintain your individuality and be a collective at the same time.
And for me, when it comes to boundaries, I like what Brian said. I think about boundaries maybe in a different way. So like I've realized in marriage, boundaries for me and for us were deciding who we were going to allow in our home, who we were going to allow, when it comes to relationships, like close relationships and things like that, because that, just like he was saying, when you're around people, they, can rub off on you. And you want to make sure that, those people that are around you are people whom you want and whom you need. So yeah, I think that's been pretty big for us, because at one point in time, it was like, oh no, all are welcome, come on. When you get beat up enough, hurt enough, it's like, hold on,
And sometimes people are not happy in their relationship, and they will bring their unhappiness and unhealthiness into your house, and then you end up dealing with their problems when you didn't have that problem. So you want to be, you want to guard your heart, like the Bible says, because out of it flow the issues of life. we won't turn this into a sermon, but I am saying it's important. I tell the people where I preach, you know, you got to protect your peace at all costs. Protect your peace at all costs. And that's peace in your relationship. That's peace of mind. Don't let nobody disturb the peace that you have in your household. If I was preaching, I would say protect your peace with reckless passion. That would be the sticky statement. I see somebody taking notes in the comment section.
Oh, that's good. That'll preach all day long. Protect your peace with reckless passion. That's good right there. I love what you all brought up in terms of the boundaries to keep your marriage safe. That's good. It's really, really good. Okay. So what role does God have in your marriage? And you can just talk on any aspect of this that you want to.
You want to start?
Yeah, I can start, or you can go ahead.
What role does God play in our marriage? Well, I mean, because God played a huge role and continues to play a huge role in our lives individually, he's definitely going to play a huge role in our marriage collectively. You know, God is who we go to, for everything, when it comes to good times and when it comes to not so good times. His word is what we use as our guide. It sounds, I'm sure, cliche or, whatever, but it's true, like we do. I think when it comes to, God, I mean, well, go ahead. No, I mean, like he just is. He is, I think we both truly, look at him as truly our father and our guide. And that's who we go and cry with. That's who we go and are angry with. That's who we go and, talk to. And it doesn't necessarily mean that he is the first person we go to at all times, which would be great, right? But that's who, we try to allow who we try to have be the first person. What are you doing?
I'm laughing.
Oh,
I'm just laughing.
At them.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what we try. Now, again, it doesn't always mean that it happens, first go around, but no, he's definitely the one who guides our marriage.
So he is at the center. He's at the center of our lives as individuals and as a couple. And that's important for a lot of reasons. But one of the main reasons that's important for me is because we have children and they are growing up in a world that doesn't want them to know anything about our God. And, we can go to church and talk about all that, and that's fine. But if the kids don't see God in your life on a regular, they're going to lose it. Like, they're going to lose it. They need to know he's real. They need to know that he works. And part of the purpose of marriage, part of the purpose, not the sole purpose, but part of what God designed marriage to do is for procreation. And we gotta, the best way to pass our faith on to our children is for them to see us read our Bible, for them to see us praying together, for them to see us, see God's reflection in our lives. And that's not going to always look like it probably should, at least not for me. She's a perfect angel, as you can see.
That is clearly not the case.
But the reality is, I want my children to know God is real so that when they have a hard time, then they can find refuge in the same God that I have, the same God who kept my parents and my grandparents and their parents. That's important to me. And so God is the heritage that I want to pass on to my children, my boys.
And that was actually, and this is just kind of piggybacking off of something that he said and going down probably a different little lane there. But when he talked about our kids, like we did something like as simple, to, I guess, some people as, when our kids, were younger and would get sick, and we do it now too, but when they were younger and would get sick, we'd say, okay, well, let's see what we can do. And let's also pray to God, and, let's take some medicine too. Let's see, what we can do. And then when they would feel better, we would actually say, okay, now who do you think did this? Like, who did we pray to? And then they'd be like, oh my goodness, God answered it. He's real. Like, he answered it. And it's like, yes, God uses all the people, all the professionals, all the medications, all everything, but he's the ultimate healer. And so just starting out like that, and then, just having that grow to other situations and things. But yeah, God is first and foremost. Yeah.
That is so beautiful. I love that. Just such intentionality with your children in helping them form that relationship with God. That's so, so powerful. I love that. I'm going to take that tip going forward. That's beautiful. That is beautiful. All right. So if your married self could tell your single self something in terms of advice, what would you tell your single self?
Well, I can answer that real quick. So what was I, 24 when we got married?
We were 24.
I would say, wait till you were
Wait.
34, at least. That's what I would tell my single self. Hey, you not ready. Don't do it. Don't do it. You're going to mess her life up. It ain't even about you. You're going to mess her life up. Don't do it. You're not ready. I know she wants to. You talk to her about it, man. You're not ready. That's what I would tell myself.
Yeah, no, I think I would say, wait too, but even in waiting, whenever you do get together, you're still going to go through a whole bunch of changes too.
That's true.
You know what I mean? Like, so it's going to happen.
But I promise you, some of the stuff.
Oh yeah, was just
because I was 24, and that's just, anyway.
Yeah, no, married self to the single self. Yeah, wait, have patience.
Ain't nobody in a hurry but you.
Yeah.
And people who want you to go through what they went through.
Mm-hmm.
It ain't about them, it's about you and yours.
Yeah. Anything else?
No, I think waiting would have solved half the problems, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
For me, can't speak for anybody else, but and I so
the haters and the
want you to hurt. I like that. I'm gonna hold on. Let me screenshot that. I'm gonna use that in one of my relationship sermons right there. The haters and the hazers want you to hurry up. Okay, I got it. The other thing is just really develop the capacity. Well, no, let me say it this way: get to know yourself. And what you really want, what you're really looking for, what you really need, which like she said, it changes over time, but there's got to be some sort of foundation of the things that you believe you need, that you know you need. So you want to have a good relationship with God and a good relationship with yourself before you get with somebody else and just unnecessarily take them through things just because you're uncomfortable with you. That's what I'm getting at.
I like it.
That is so good. I feel like that'll preach all day long. A relationship with yourself and relationship with others, so that you don't put people through stuff unnecessarily. And I know that that's something that all of us do, whether it's with friendships, jobs. So I really appreciate that advice. Is beautiful. Okay, so what advice do you have for singles who desire godly marriage, other than wait? Because I hear that loud and clear.
Okay, so the reality. So hold on. Go ahead.
No, and I'll probably chime in just periodically as he's talking anyway. But I would say, just besides wait, just continue to get to know yourself like that. And when I say that, like, that's just what I mean, like, get to like learn yourself, like, what do you like to do? What do you not like to do? You know, what do you, how are you, like, realize how you are when you are stressed? How are you when, you're going through different challenges? Like, that would have been wonderful to know and to be able to tell somebody. You're spending the rest of your life with, like, hey, when I go through things, this is not that I'm gonna act like this every time, but this is how I deal with it right now, so, beware or something like that. But when, again, when you, I think, get married so young, not to say that you shouldn't, but again, like, when you do get married, so young, there are certain things that you don't know to say because you really don't know how you would respond or how you are, you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. I do know what you mean. So I would answer this in two ways. Number one, if you're gonna have a godly marriage, you got to understand that at the baseline of that relationship needs to be two words: love and respect.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Just love and respect. That's got to be the baseline of the relationship. Don't marry somebody that you love but don't respect you. Okay? Don't marry somebody that respects you that you don't really love. But even when you do have mutual love and respect, it's gonna be a mess. It's just gonna be a mess. I know that might come up because, so I wanted to ask a question. I know you're interviewing us, but I want to ask a question. Where do we get this concept of a godly marriage? Because we don't read about none of them in the Bible. Not one. Every marriage that we read about in the Bible is jacked up. Every family we read up in the Bible was up from the floor up. So there ain't no biblical model for what a godly marriage should look like. So what does that tell you? If all the examples that he left us were messed up, chances are you're going to go through some seasons of mess in your relationship too.
That is so good. I love what you said there. That's good right there. Yes. Okay. Yes. Continue, brother. Continue. That's good.
So understand there's going to be seasons of mess and invite God into your mess and watch him move you guys forward. That's about how it's going to work. You're going to find yourself in seasons of mess in a godly marriage. You're going to find yourself in mess. You invite God into that mess, and so he can help you move from that mess. And that's basically, I mean, I don't want to be, when we were not married and we would talk to people and they would tell us lies like they ain't never gotten in an argument and our house is clean all the time and, we never had a real problem. Why are you lying? Like, that's just not, now, I'm not gonna call anybody a liar, so I shouldn't say that. But I don't believe them when they tell me they've never had an argument or that, paint a rosy picture of something that has been messed up since the beginning of time. I just don't believe it. So if one of y'all if one person thinks that everything is fine, somebody in that relationship is lying. That's just the bottom line. Because the Bible is going to be right. I know that sounds like an old school preacher, but the Bible is going to be right. And the enemy is going to be working. So as long as those two things are true, then there's going to be seasons of mess and invite God into the mess. It all depends on what they consider art. That's true, brother. That's true. Because some people, they be throwing pots and pans at each other and declare it wasn't no big deal. I'm like, man, that was a cast iron skillet you just flung past your head and it wasn't no big deal. It looked like a big deal to me. Oh, that's normal for us. Oh, okay. I get it. You're right, bro. You're right. But yeah, that's kind of temper your expectations of what that's supposed to look like and allow God to form your relationship in a way that honors him. And I think if that's what your goal is, then you'll get to the end and be able to look back and say we've had a good relationship. But the reality is sometimes in the middle, you can't see how beautiful it is because of what you're going through right now.
Yeah, and I think, like, I also think that just kind of you're right. You know, in the middle of things, it doesn't always look like rosy or whatever. But I do think, like you said, you know, when we look back over our marriage, we've been married, I think in October it'd be 17 years. But together for 22 or something to that effect. He's the one that used to keep up with these days, not me. But when we look back, you know, there's been a lot of growth. There's been hurt, pain, but there's also been growth, and there's also been like a lot of joy. I mean, it's awesome to be able to. What did you write?
I didn't write nothing. I was just enjoying the conversation.
But whoop, he just played the chat. Anyway, see, now I forget what I was saying.
I'm sorry. Well, you
Yeah,
were talking. I didn't interrupt you. Go ahead, honey.
Anyway, I think I was saying something to the effect of like, it's really like to look back on our marriage, and yes, to see, you know, the challenging times, but also to see like the great times. I think, you know, when you think about marriage, you know, I think, yes, you think, I mean, it's a relationship, so it involves people, which means, you know, we're not perfect. So we're gonna have to work through some things. But at the same time, you know, you're gonna have fun. Like, you have a life partner, like forever. That's something to look forward to. You know, you have somebody that's gonna be sleeping in your bed, you know, beside you, who's gonna be able to cry with you, or even be like, why are you crying? Come on, I don't understand this. Explain it to me. You know, like, you know, someone who you're going to be able to raise kids with, someone who you're going to actually grow with. I mean, you're going to change with, because you know, especially if you're together for any amount of time, you know, I think it's you know, cool to eat chicken strips. Right? Yes.
She don't share none of her food.
I don't.
Oh,
See,
yes,
you
ma'am.
have to learn about me. I don't like to share food. I don't. If I do,
That's when the dishes start flying.
it's likely, if I do share food, it's likely
because she don't want it.
because I don't want it. But but anyway, I think there are, hold on, put it the other way around, I bet.
No, it's not.
No, he shares his food.
Mm.
I'm okay with admitting that. I'm the one. I like food. I enjoy food. If I order food off a menu, you know, that's what I want. But no, anyway, I just think it's fun to or good to, when thinking about, you know, marriage, yes, you're gonna have challenges, but you're also gonna have some really, really cool and great times, you know, together too. Like, I remember, yeah. So anyway.
Oh, please share the great time. We would love to hear about it.
Oh, great times. Okay, so some of the great times have been on our vacations when we were able to kind of,
Hey,
what?
I'm gonna tell y'all something about that. Okay, I'm gonna tell you something. Here it is. I don't care what you gotta do. If you decide to get married, get you and your significant other away from everybody else. If you gotta go and stay in a hotel downtown for 3 days, get away from everybody else. True story. You can Carnival cruises are a incredibly cheap way to get away and go to some nice places. If you know, if you don't mind eating Carnival cruise food,
I don't mind.
it's an incredibly cheap way to get away and have a good time with your significant other. Look, we not those kind of people that want you to believe that we got this and we got that and all this. No, we go on cruises for $200 a piece, and we have a good time for 4 days, 4 nights and 5 days. It ain't no big deal. But you don't. This is what I'm really getting at. Say this in a serious way. Don't let the lack of finances keep you from doing what you need to do for your family. Everybody got $20 a week that you can save for 10 weeks. and find you a couple nights away, because you will need to unplug.
And the reason why he feels so passionately about that, and so do I, is because
we didn't
for so long.
Probably for the first 8 years of our marriage.
Yeah.
Maybe longer than that.
Longer than that,
Yeah.
I think.
Probably for the first 8-10 years of our marriage, we didn't go on vacation.
Yeah.
Can tell you, look, I'm always on Travelocity and Expedia. Look, right now, they got 4-night cruises coming out of Miami to I think it's Key West and Cozumel for $149. Y'all better get on it. A round trip flight to Miami, like $150. Y'all better get on it. $300 for a whole vacation.
Meals included.
But
yeah.
So yeah, Robert, you better talk to him. You better talk to him. Get these folks out the house, man. Listen, now I'm gonna tell you, married or not married, life is very stressful these days. Mm-hmm. Life is very stressful. And now I know I like to make fun and jokes, but if you read your Bible carefully, especially the Gospels, Jesus pulled away like all the time, man. Jesus, I'm gonna holler at y'all. I'm gonna go to this 3-night retreat on the Mount of Olives. I'll be back. Most of the time he didn't take nobody with him. Sometimes he would take Peter, James, and John. They'd go up to a mountain to pray. Mm-hmm. He modeled it and we missed it, right? We think it's real Christian like to work all the time and don't quit. When Jesus Christ himself, when he had enough, no, watch this, before he had enough,
right?
He got away so he could continue to be who God called him to be and do what God called him to do. So that's one of the things that is more Christian than anything else, is getting away. I like that.
Yeah.
This is so good, y'all. Okay. I feel like you've given us so many tools, not just about marriage, but about life. This is so good. Thank you so much. So we're all questioned out, but before we go, I do want to hear from Authentic Marriages, you all, because I know these folks and I know that their heart, that the amazing genuineness, but also I'm seeing all of the marriages that they're building. And so I'm so excited to have Authentic Marriages on with us now. If Authentic Marriages, if you're available, we'd love for you to come. We'd love for you to go ahead and share with us what you all have coming up next.
Hello, everybody. Hey, how are you doing? I'm glad to be on with you guys. Thank you guys for giving us this moment. Brian and Tronda, y'all kept it real. We appreciate everything y'all had to say. Definitely. And the vulnerability with which you kind of talked about all of those things, I think was probably the biggest thing is that you have to be really honest with each other and honest with yourself when it comes to kind of building up your relationship. And I think a lot of times we don't know how to do that. So that's why people like us exist, Authentic Marriages. So we can definitely talk a little bit about some of the things that we've done and some of the things we have coming up.
So I'm glad Brian mentioned the Travel Together, because that was a song that we were singing ever since we met you guys about traveling and traveling away together as a couple and just taking that time. So a couple of things we do, for those of you who don't know, Authentic Marriages, we do couples workshops. We didn't listen.
Well, we should have.
We do couples workshops. We do couples retreats. We just came back from Jamaica over this summer. And we also do like coaching groups, right? And so a couple of the coaching groups are tailored towards married couples who've been married for a while, as well as like engaged people who are in seriously committed relationships, engaged or newlyweds, right? So that's also one of the couple population that we want to work with, because one of the things that I liked about what Brian and Tronda shared was that, in that, Brian talked about like waiting till he's like 34 before he could get married, right? And I think like that's important to note that in that space when you are preparing to get married, I think that is important to not only work on yourself, not only like understand who you are, understand your own like traumas and triggers and different things like that that you might be going through, but also to work on preparing for marriage. I think that sometimes by the time people find a partner and they get engaged and they might be in that very like extra happy stage, that extra happy stage of couplehood where you're like, everything seems wonderful, you seem wonderful, we have this dreamy idea of what marriage is. And that's such a beautiful stage to do work, right? Like to actually lay a good foundation because you actually like each other.
Yes.
You actually still like each other and are very fond of each other. And so that's I love working with like engaged couples for that reason, because it's such a good space that they're in. And it's such a good place where they can lay healthy habits, like healthy communication habits, learning about our triggers, learning how we respond when we're triggered to each other, so that you understand that this may not actually be about you. This might be about stuff that's going on with me, and I might be taking it out on you. And so that's helpful. But a lot of times, we were just talking about this the other day, a lot of times newlyweds are just like, oh, we don't need that. Like, that's not going to happen to us.
And a big part of it, obviously, is that, you know, you feel very strong and secure in your relationship, and you may very well be strong and secure in your relationship. That doesn't mean that you're not going to continue to grow, and that doesn't mean there's not things that are going to come up from your past that still affects you now. And you're unaware of those things usually. And so that's why we like to work with that group, because you can really change the direction of your entire marriage, and you can keep liking each other, right? And that's a big thing, because there's a lot of people who are Christians who are married who are like, well, you know, I'm not going to leave you, even though I'm grossly unhappy with you, right? Yeah. And it's like, no, we don't want that. God doesn't want that. God wants us to not always have an easy marriage, but He wants us to have a marriage that is healthy and always going in the right direction. But that takes work, and that takes intention, you know, and when you put the work in and when you're intentional, you know, when you put, exactly, I can't stand your stage, Brian said, exactly. Yeah. You know, but when you're intentional and you put in the work, your marriage will be like really happy most of the times, because you're putting in the work. I think that a lot of times we expect things to keep being okay, and when it doesn't, when things start to fall apart, we blame the other person.
Yeah. So a couple of things that we have coming up. We do have a coaching group that's starting in the fall for couples, for married or engaged couples. And then we have a specific coaching group that's going to start in the spring, in January, for engaged or newlywed couples. So that's sort of like the premarital foundation things that we were just talking about, to kind of lay that foundation. So if anybody you know is in a committed relationship and would like to get a head start, I would like to be, you know, proactive with that, you know, we have a group specifically for that in January. And then we also want to do, that has been something that's been on our hearts, is doing a retreat or a group specifically for those in ministry, preachers, elders, because we know that they are in a very unique, challenging situation where you're not always able to have the right community, the right type of community that is readily available for you. And so that has been one thing that we've been talking about, is a group specific to preachers and preachers' wives, so that they can have a safe space as well to talk about things and be a regular, normal person behind closed doors, right? Because a lot of times preachers have to, they have the burden of appearing to have everything together and having to be, their family has to be put together, their children can't make mistakes and all of these things. And so Jared was a preacher's kid, so he's very familiar with that life and what that felt like, you know. So that's something that we also feel very passionate about. But that's it. Any other questions, Kim?
We would love to know, how do we get in touch with you all?
Oh, yes. So our website is authenticmarriages.com. And if somebody could put the link in there for me, because I don't have
We're on the phone.
We're on the phone, yeah. on the phone, and so I don't have my copy and paste ready to go. But, and our email is info@authenticmarriages.com.
Thanks, Brian.
Yes. And we're on Instagram as well,
Yeah.
@authentic.marriages, and on Facebook. You can find us on Facebook as well.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you all so, so much for just being who you are in the kingdom. And I can say that the beauty of today for me is that Tronda and Brian and Cara and Jared were at the same time there in North Carolina at Southside and Durham. And it was beautiful just having you all young married couples just working and loving on us and helping us and having us over to your houses all the time. So thank you so much for that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, Brian and Trina, do you have anything else that you want to close? Do you want to make sure that we know before we leave?
Hey, not a whole lot other than thank you so much for sharing this opportunity with us. We've had a blast. And you guys stay encouraged, trust the Lord. And I appreciate this ministry. I did want to say that I appreciate this ministry so much.
Mhm. And then before you meet, I think that for me, one of the things, and I don't think I mentioned before, but probably I'm sure we kind of alluded to it, and that was just learning your method of communication. And so we did mention it before, but that I think that is very important for yourself, for your relationships. Like just learn your method of communication, and also know that others communicate differently than you do. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad. Sometimes it can be, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's, bad or off. It's just different. And so I think that could have solved a lot of issues in our marriage too. Robert said he has a question.
Well, thank you guys so much. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to close out really quickly. And then the audience members who are here, you have the VIP access for questions. Thank you guys so much, Brian and Trina. Thank you.